Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky here. The Lakers have won 7 of 10. They're 18-8 in their last 20, whatever that is. But what do we really know about them and how good they are? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one is always going to be free, and it is never going to be behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where people like Aaron Larsoul, our guest today, filling in for Andy, who's finishing up his spring break family vacation.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah. That is where people like Aaron can go and hang out with 23,000 other subscribers to the channel, all of whom are wondering, the Lakers aren't going to mess anything up tonight in Toronto. They've lost 13 games in a row. They're not going to lose tomorrow in Washington. That team's won like 14 games all year. So, okay, let's just pencil in 5-1 for the road trip, Aaron. They've already won 7 of 10. They I believe are 18-8 in their last, I think, 26 during the intro. I tried to do the math there. I think it is 26 games.
Yeah, it was 18-8 in their last 20 in the intro there. Yeah.
20. I said 20 something.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, I thought I just heard 20. Okay, yeah.
I was told there would be no math.
Yeah.
And so
a Vandy education kicking in.
I wasn't a math major, and so I worked with words. That's pretty good. They've beaten a lot of really good teams in that stretch. All of that stuff, like there's a lot of like objective truths going on where like by the end of this trip, the Lakers had better be 11 games over 500, which is not a bad record, particularly when you consider how terrible they were after the IST. Mm-hmm. But when we were talking about, hey, what do you want to get into tonight? Aaron, by the way, the one of the hosts over there at All Access Lakers on Playback, that's where you can catch all of his stuff. What do we know? You asked a really good question. Like, what do we know, like actually know about this team?
So it's interesting, and we're going to talk about kind of what it looks like going forward here in a little bit. But part of it, I think, is the West is so damn good this year. As you said, the Lakers' record is pretty good in a normal year. Like last year, if the Lakers continued on this winning percentage, would have finished 4th in the conference. The Warriors this year are struggling to stay in the 10 seed. If they had, they will finish with a better record than they did last year, which got them the 6th seed last year, et cetera. There was, I think, 2 teams that won 50 games last year in the West. There's potentially going to be 6 teams in the West that win 50 games this year. So part of it is we're grading on a curve here a little bit, but I don't know what the Lakers are. You mentioned the really good stretch, over the last 26 games or so, 20-something games.
And I, by the way, I don't need anybody.
They're going back
and looking it up. I mean, like, is it 18-8? Is it 19? And I don't.
But as you said, it's like in the last. I think it's 7-3 in the last 10. I think
definitely that.
Yeah, which is also really good. But yeah, it was a good win. Good win in Milwaukee. Good win here in LA against Milwaukee, both times without LeBron. Outside of that, it's not a murderer's row, but you only get to play the teams that are on the schedule, right? They talk about this in college football all the time. You and I were talking about college football a little bit before we went live, and people are always comparing schedules. Hey, look, you can only play who's on the schedule, right? So the Lakers can only play who is on their schedule, and this has been a soft part of the schedule. I think what we do know is since Rui has been inserted into the starting lineup, that the Lakers offense is very good, maybe even elite, but that has come at the expense of the defense. Some of that may be a personnel thing also, but I don't know. That's what's made it kind of strange is the identity of this team has changed. I think for a good reason, right? I think Rui is one of the best guys on the team and should have been playing more to begin with. But without Vando,
you're playing the role of Andy Kamenetsky very well.
Oh, am I? I think I got a little more.
Andy has been it's a low bar to clear, but like Andy has been on the free Rui bandwagon for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people have kind of, yes, he has been. I've heard him say, but lots of people have been kind of, and look, I've had this conversation with Rob Pelinka because I didn't understand why, when the Lakers were searching for lineup combinations that were working early in the season, without, with benching Austin and then benching D'Lo and then bringing them back. When you're searching and scrambling, I thought it made sense to go to a foundation that worked last year, which included Rui. So I didn't understand not even trying that earlier in the season. But to answer your question is, I don't know. I mean, it's not a great answer, but it's the truth. I don't know what the Lakers are, because the identity has shifted. And in this great stretch, maybe it's because the offense is so good that the Lakers can beat anyone, or maybe it's because the teams that the Lakers have beaten. I mean, like Minnesota's a good win, except they didn't play a single center in that game. Cat was out, Naz Reid was out, Gobert was out. So that would be a good win. But again, the Milwaukee wins are good wins, right? Like Indiana has been pretty terrible, beat the Lakers the other night, and the Lakers put 150 on them and at crypto and won 150, 140. So I don't know is the answer.
Fun. I like that.
It was fun. Yeah, it was fun.
But I agree with you. And I think this is what makes the question of what are they is really it's a micro and a macro. It's a what's the opposite of meta. There's a meta question here, and then there's a whatever isn't meta, like right now kind of deal.
Specific to
right. I wasn't a philosophy major.
No, I thought it was. I heard something about words.
Yeah, I did poli-sci and history. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. So
did I, by the way.
You thought I was going to be a lawyer?
Yes.
I was watching you from afar. Great legal mind.
Yes.
Let's stick on like the now part, and before we're done here, get into the bigger picture stuff, because there are a lot of questions, people talking about what LeBron was getting into after the game on Sunday. By the way, today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Sort of LeBron talking about his own mortality and how long he's going to play, and all year we've been talking about like what's that next contract going to look like, and so on. And those are like the big picture, what are they kind of questions. But in the immediate, like they're clearly not bad. Like this is not a bad, like before earlier in the season, we were concerned like this might be kind of a, by Lakers standards, kind of a trash, average, garbagey 500 sort of team. They're not that. They're pretty good, and their record, Aaron, against like the best teams in the league. You go by point differential and win-loss and all this stuff. The metrics that they have against those teams are as strong as anybody in the NBA. There's a lack of consistency there, but like there's also been a lack of health. And there's been an inconsistency in, I think, not just the team's identity, but the common perception of what the team's identity is. Last year, I think they all understood, coaching staff and players, kind of what they were. This year, I think there's been a massive disconnect for a lot of the season about what, I think it's less now because they're winning. But I mean, all of these things, I don't know. Do you get the impression that they have settled on what they are yet as both a coaching staff and a roster?
No. I don't think so from a coaching perspective. I do not think that Darvin, here's a great shock to no one. I don't think Darvin has covered himself in glory this season.
I would agree.
And you mentioned the injuries. While that is true, I don't know how accurate it is, because AD and LeBron have been incredibly healthy, more than anyone could have expected. Austin hasn't missed a game yet this year. D'Lo has only missed a few games. So those are your best four guys, probably. So they've been really healthy. Now, where I do think it matters is Vando has missed a bunch of time, and Gabe has missed all but whatever now it is, six games, I think.
6 games, and their centers have been
also true, right? And Cam has missed time too. Now Cam's not particularly good, but if you don't have Vando, who's obviously your best on-ball defender, and then you don't have Gabe, who's probably your second best on-ball defender, that becomes Cam's job. And then Cam misses time, and you're just down to a little Torian Prince and mostly Austin and D'Lo.
Trying to, I mean, I like Max Christie, but there are limitations as to what he can do. He's just Dom and Rangula was on for Monday, and like we had this, like, I was like, some of the anger at Reddish playing or Christie not playing or whatever is because Reddish is 40 pounds heavier.
Yes.
It's just that simple.
And no, I don't think they figured out who they are yet. Now, I think the guys, the team, the players are starting to and are coming together. I think they're kind of galvanizing. And frankly, maybe some of it is galvanizing like, all right, we're doing this, kind of an FU to everyone else. We're doing this. But LeBron is often a bellwether for what is going on in the locker room. And LeBron does his passive aggressive stuff all the time. But he's had an Instagram post the other day. I don't remember which game it was. It was a couple games ago, and it was the thrust of it was Austin. It was a few pictures of Austin throwing him a lob. And, it was like, on to the next one. Let's go, boys. That kind of thing. And LeBron's not doing that. If LeBron's like in a bad mood, LeBron's not going to do that just to like encourage his guys publicly. He's not going to do that. So that indicated to me that things are feeling a little better in the locker room. But to your point, whatever, winning 18 of 26 and winning 7 of 10 and 5 in a row kind of thing is helpful for that kind of thing.
Right,
I would say winning is the greatest deodorant.
Okay, so let's get back to this in a second, because one of the things I think in terms of like what are they now that is a huge question is the return of Gabe Vincent, what the bench looks like, and all that. Because lost in LeBron's amazing performance on Sunday, 2 points from the Lakers bench. 2. Mm-hmm. That is 2 more than you and I scored in that game.
That's true.
And neither one of us were in uniform. So let's get to that and the big picture questions about what the Lakers and this franchise are. And we'll get to all that next. Locked on Lakers is brought to you by BetterHelp. Look, all of us, everybody has kind of their things going on. We are always looking for an opportunity to get something off your chest, to find ways to deal with things, whether they're big or small. Things can pile up, whether family, work, whatever it is. And it's important to have somebody who's unbiased in your life, who understands how to process these things and can help you with that. Therapy has been something I know Andy talks about it a lot. It's been something that's been important in my family as well, whether you're talking about, again, work stuff, family stuff, kid stuff, marriage stuff, whatever it might be. We use this show, hopefully as an escape for a lot of people. But we all understand that there are things in this world that are far more important than what we're doing, talking about sports 5 days a week. As much as we love it and as seriously as we take it, it isn't the most important thing in the world. So therapy can be different for anyone. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, you think it might be something that can help you, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. The easiest way to start is just to go to BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. You can get 10% off your first month. Again, BetterHelp.com. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. 10% off your first month. It is worth finding out if therapy is something that can help you. Again, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. So, okay, Aaron, that vibe question. This is, and I'll save this a little bit for this is part of the reason this question of what are they is so challenging, because look, they ought to finish the road trip 5-1. They could absolutely win, 3 or 4 more games, 5 more games before the end of the season, finish the season on a, 20 something and, 11 run, pretty good, It's not inconceivable that depending on what the draw is, they get out of the in-season tournament or the play-in tournament and then win a round.
I think the Lakers can beat anyone as long as somebody else beats Denver for them.
Okay. But that's quite a statement for the team.
I would have some pause about picking them against Minnesota. Yeah. I think Minnesota would be 6 or 7. I don't think
the Clippers.
I don't think OKC has anything.
Make me nervous with
the Clippers make me nervous.
But the point is, for
Phoenix makes me nervous.
The average 9 seed, you don't sit there and go, well, I wouldn't feel as great about that 3 seed or whatever. In the East, they're not having these conversations. So they're not a normal team, but they do have some weird things going on. The bench right now, the Spencer Dinwiddie experience has been fascinating because it hasn't looked the way that it's supposed to. It hasn't provided the jolt of bench scoring that it was expected to. But at the flip side, it's actually done wonders for their defense, for some of their lineup combinations they can do, and his overall effect in terms of net rating and stuff like that has been very positive. How much do you think it matters actually as we start to get down the stretch into potential playoff series and all this stuff, that they have essentially a functionally non-scoring bench right now?
I don't think it matters much, as long as I don't think it matters if Vando is available. I don't know if he will be, but if Vando is available, I would assume that he would come off the bench. But Vando gives you somebody to throw on the other team's best guy. So those bench units are not just bleeding points to the other team. And if you can have kind of multiple ways of playing, the Lakers starters can try to outscore somebody and the bench can lock in and keep it even with the other team's bench because nobody becomes a rock fight in those bench minutes, then I don't think it matters as much. It mattered the other day. I mean, the Lakers were still able to win, but it mattered in the Brooklyn game. I think it was, I mean, you said it was 2 points. I think Gabe had the only bucket.
Correct.
And I think Dinwiddie was +1, and everybody else on the bench, literally everybody else on the bench that touched the floor was, -2, -6, -4, -5. So that can't be. But if you're able to turn the bench minutes for both teams into a rock fight, because lots of times they're going to leave one of your best scorers out there. The other team's going to leave one of their best scorers out there to kind of captain the bench unit. If Vando can come off the bench and you throw Vando on whoever that guy is, if that's Steph or Devin Booker or, like they're not going to play Milwaukee again, but like De'Aaron Fox or like a Dame Lillard or like in this kind of construction, and you can play those while LeBron rests and maybe Giannis is resting, and it's mostly bench guys, but they've got their guy out there. If you can kind of hold your own, make it a rock fight in those moments, then you can have the starters come back in and put the pedal down offensively, because the Lakers offense, and obviously particularly the starters, or I guess in the Brooklyn game, basically entirely the starters, the offense really is cooking. I think the Lakers are second in offensive efficiency since the new year. So right. Like the Lakers have turned into a very good offense.
And we've talked a lot about the bench, and the Dinwiddie thing hasn't played out the way, but like the bargain that they sort of made when they put Rui in the starting lineup was essentially that they were going to kind of gut their bench scoring.
Yes.
And throw all of that in the starting lineup. And
yeah, I mean, especially with who was available and now is available, right? Because if
Christian
Wood was available,
you don't think they would move him back to the bench if Vanderbilt comes back with enough games to get healthy?
No, I don't. Especially because, well, for two reasons. One, this is kind of going well now, and I don't think you want to mess with it. And then, as we saw later into the season last year, and then
never stopped
into the playoffs, you ain't lying. Into the playoffs, like there were matchups where Vando just couldn't do it,
right,
and was taken off the floor. So I don't think you would want to move him back right before the playoffs, where you're going to have teams having more of an opportunity to scheme against him and try to take him off the floor because of what he does or doesn't do, his limitations offensively. Especially because LeBron's shooting it better this year. He's shooting it very well this year, 9 of 10 in the Brooklyn game. But AD is still not. And so AD is going to occupy that space around the basket, and that's going to clog things up if you're going to put Vando there. So I don't think Vando would go back into the starting lineup. But to your point, stranger things have happened. But no, I do not think he would.
I mean, the advantage to it, the logic, I think there would be that you build in a little bit of bench scoring with Rui. But I think the fact Rui playing now with the size of LeBron, the size of Anthony Davis, all that stuff is, I think, helping him a lot
Mm-hmm.
in ways that, this team just hasn't, even factoring in the injuries and the way the rotation has had to play out. It's a great reminder that no two seasons play out exactly the same. You can take almost the same guys and put them in the same, lineups and some of the same configurations, and you may just get a different result.
There's a really interesting thing. I have this conversation with True a lot, with Trudell, and he has it on LFR with Pete and Darius about the exponential benefit that Rui gets from playing with LeBron and AD, because they're all, big wing or bigger sized guys, and AD has some offensive versatility. He can put the ball on the ground a little bit, but eventually you're just going to run out. The other team is going to run out of guys. So generally, even in a starting lineup, generally the guy that ends up guarding Rui is going to be a little too small or too slow or just not good enough defensively, because you have to deploy your best guys on AD and on LeBron, of course. And then you go, oh, well, somebody's going to have to go get D'Lo, because D'Lo can get cooking too. And Austin's pretty good, So I think Rui is getting the benefit of playing. It's like the one too many guys kind of theory, is that Rui is just getting to go against the other team's often worse defender, because the Lakers just have one too many guys. The same is true when the Lakers are on defense, is they don't have enough guys.
Right. But they can crank it up in moments in ways, I think, where like the offense is so explosive that if you give it 5 minutes, 6 minutes, half a quarter, 3/4 of a quarter of really good defense, that can be enough for them to pull away from teams.
Absolutely. And that has been the secret too. I talk about this a lot because I pay attention to them most closely, other than the Lakers, is the Warriors. And that was the secret to the Warriors, is the Warriors are going to, and this was especially true at Oracle Arena, and it would happen in the third quarter all the time. The Warriors are going to keep scoring. You cannot stop the Warriors. Their offense is so good. They are going to keep scoring. And then there's going to be a 4-minute stretch or a 6-minute stretch where they turn your water off and the game's over.
Yep.
So I do agree with that. I think that, especially when LeBron is invested enough that he's going to lock in possession by possession defensively, I think the Lakers do have the possibility of they will turn some other team's water off for 4 minutes. I mean, look, you saw it in the Brooklyn game is a great example. All right, that had, I think, a lot more to do with Brooklyn than it did the Lakers, but the game was over 4 minutes into the game. Right. I mean, it was over because the Lakers were scoring and they turned Brooklyn's water off.
This is, and we'll break here, but like it's another one of these things. This thought just occurred to me of why it's so disappointing that it took 50 games to get into the process of figuring some of these things out. Because imagine if they had this offense all year, and this isn't all entirely on Darvin. This is players and circumstance and context as well. Not trying to just load everything onto Darvin, but imagine if the Lakers had the opportunity and the time to build this kind of mystique around their offense, to where you're going to have to put up 125, 130 or whatever. And if you have a 5-minute stretch where your shots don't fall, like that was always what was one of the things that made playing the Warriors so challenging, was that there was always the specter of, if we go 5 minutes without scoring, 3 minutes without scoring, 2.5 minutes without scoring, we could go from being up by 1 to down by 9. And that is a really difficult way to play. It's really difficult. All right. When we come back, though, I want to get into this more meta questions about where the Lakers are and what they are based on LeBron's mortality responses after the game on Sunday. We'll do all that with Aaron next. Locked On Lakers brought to you by GameTime. It is a crazy time to be a baseball fan in Los Angeles. You want to go see Ohtani, you want to go see Yamamoto and Mookie and Freddie and the entire gang. Well, it is a tricky ticket to get, to say the very least, to go to Dodger Stadium. GameTime, though, is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets for Major League Baseball. I particularly love this idea of knowing exactly how much my seat is going to cost. That's the all-in pricing, so there's no surprises at checkout. I like zone deals where you can save when you let GameTime choose the seat, and all you do is choose a section. There's lots of ways to make it easier to get into the park, get into the concert, get into the theater, whatever it is that you're trying to do. And again, you always have that lowest price guarantee, or GameTime will credit you 110%, I should say, of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime, download the GameTime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the GameTime app, last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Okay, so LeBron, after the Brooklyn game, was, of all the week when the Lakers are on the road, the hometown media, that's their kind of access to him for the year. How much longer do you think you're going to play? What's it look like? You were so good tonight, and he really was. He had 40 points on 17 field goal attempts. That is efficient.
Indeed.
Well earned. So, but he goes through the thing. We've heard this before. Not much longer. I'm certainly not going to play 21 more years. That's for damn sure. I don't know how many years are left on this side of the hill and all these other stuff. But, and it's, on the one hand, it's like people always kind of freak out about it. On the other hand, he's 39. Like, how much longer do we really think he's going to play? But the answer isn't after this year, I'm done. I don't think.
No.
Whereas, last year he seemed kind of burnt out at different points. This year, I think it's, I've gotten less of those indications. All of the reporting seems to be that he wants to, get the Lakers into a 2-year deal, something like that, something kind of meaningful going forward a little bit. So I don't know if it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but it's something. And it puts the Lakers in a fascinating position because like if he wants 3 years, if he wants 2 guaranteed years, he's also not going to do that at a discount. He's obviously still very good. He's also 39. He's challenging to build around because you have to make accommodations for that. What do you do if you're the Lakers? Because you're not an elite team in the Western Conference, but you're not trash either. Talking about what we were getting at earlier in the show, I don't envy Rob Pelinka the place that they're in.
Well, I mean, the answer to this is whatever LeBron wants, you give him. I mean, put the basketball aside. Fans aren't going to like this, but you put the basketball aside. He and Steph Curry are the 2 biggest draws in the NBA, and they will be until they retire. So just from a business and marketing and financial impact, LeBron is going to be worth whatever he wants to get paid for as long as he wants to get paid it. But you are correct about this kind of being a crossroads. Let's say it's 2 years. That's interesting to me because that gives enough time for Bronny to comfortably get to the NBA. And it is 1 year more than Vince Carter played. So LeBron would have the most seasons played. And it would be his 23rd year. I don't know. It's kind of poetic, his number, Jordan's number, and all that, if he plays 23 years. So let's call it that. I think the really interesting part of this discussion, because the Lakers are going to have some ammunition in the offseason to go and try to make a big splash. Is that the right way to build the team? Is a fair question. How much of this window do you have to attack with LeBron and AD now? Neither one is getting younger. None of us are. But LeBron is past his prime. He's still damn good. He's still probably the 8th or 10th best player in the league. AD has had a fantastic season. But AD has got a lot of miles on him, wear and tear. And he's still really damn good, but he's not in his physical prime anymore. Mm-hmm. He may still be as good of a player as he's ever been, but there's no reason to think that AD is going to get better. So in this offseason, do you go and try to make a splash? Because this is probably the last offseason that you are going to have.
The Trae Young rumors are out there percolating.
I can't speak on other teams, guys, specifically, but there is another Eastern Conference guy that there are rumors about also. But the reason why it's such an interesting conversation, or one of the reasons why it's such a fascinating conversation, is what you alluded to, where the Lakers are in the West. And I don't know that there's any reason to think that the West is going to get worse, right?
No, God, no.
Next year, the Spurs, who have been a disaster, there's no reason that they should be a lot better.
No,
right?
they're going to be. They're done. They're done doing their thing now. They've got.
Yeah, and they're going to have another
Right.
first or second or third or fourth overall pick to throw in the mix, and they'll have a bunch of money, and some guys are going to want to play with Wemby. So, I like the only team that looks like it has no direction and is going nowhere is Portland in the West. Right? You take all the teams, the top 10 now, we'll put them aside. All of them should be reasonably just as good next year, if not better. The Warriors will be a little older, who knows?
But Houston should be better.
Here comes Houston, right? And Utah has been good the last 2 years at the beginning of the year until they decided we're too good and have quit. And again, the Spurs, Memphis should be damn good, right? Memphis is going to have all their guys, Ja should be back. So that is what makes it such a fascinating offseason and a fascinating question, because even if the Lakers are able to really do well in this offseason, is it enough? Because the West is going to be damn good again next year.
They got the miracle of last season was not that the Lakers made the Western Conference Finals and turned it around like with this midseason trade and became a totally different team. They were like on the fly, managed to reform their team in a way that worked, where the pieces lined up, where the vibe change was also so strong that I think they were just so pleased to some degree. I'm not sure it mattered at all who they got back in the Russ deal, but they were just done with it. That they got pieces that actually made sense and like, hey, we got something, made it even more exciting. The miracle wasn't that. The miracle was that the Western Conference cooperated to the point that the Lakers not only got to make the play-in, they got to be a 7 seed. Like, that is stunning. Like, because they were not that good last year.
No, and then they got Memphis last year was not as good as a number 2 seed normally is, and we're missing Brandon Clark and Steven Adams. And the Kings were not as good as a normal 3 seed last year, and they got smacked by the Warriors. So then the Lakers got to play the Warriors, which
was a great matchup for them.
Right.
I'm not, and I don't mean to discount, the run.
You can only play who's in front of you.
Right. And they played very well, and they
all count.
And all of that. But the joke I made throughout last season was that, Adam Silver was, mandating, sort of holding back the entire company until the Lakers
pulling the strings,
got their act together.
This
year, it just hasn't been that way. Like last year, like you said at the beginning of the show, like they'd be a 4 seed in the East, they'd be a 5 or 6 or 7. They certainly wouldn't be struggling to like win 8 of 10, and they just don't move in the standings. Like that's been what's been so, I think, difficult to kind of feel like the Lakers are really making progress, even though they're winning a lot of games. They're not moving in the standings at all.
No, if you look at you can even look down at 11 now that they've lost. Houston has lost. But if you look at the standings and you go to last 10, like everybody is 6-4 or better. If you go 6-4 or 7-3, you might lose ground.
The Lakers have gone 7-3 and lost 2 games to Dallas as an example to that. They've gained 1 game on Phoenix, Sacramento, and Golden State. 1 game after that. I mean, and if you go 18, go back to the 18-8, they're not gaining any ground in there either. They're just staying where they are, and so they're too good. But to your point about LeBron, well, then we'll probably have to quit. But like, I understand the trepidation that goes with giving LeBron James a guaranteed 2 years and a player option or something like that, whatever it might be. The alternative, though, is blow it up. You have 2 choices. Because if you can't replace LeBron with a free agent, it doesn't work that way. You could trade in for a Trae Young or a Donovan Mitchell or name whatever, but to make that work, you're going to sacrifice so much depth that you're probably not going to be able to build a team that plays at that level. Because LeBron's better than Trae Young, and so that's not going to make you better without rebuilding the depth around it, which becomes very difficult because you just traded for Trae Young. Your choices are try to keep figuring it out with LeBron and AD, catch lightning in a bottle because they're still very good players, or blow it up. Blow it up sucks. The Lakers did 8 years of blow it up. Blow it up is not a 1-season process, a 2-season process. It's always much more than that.
No.
And
the other part is, if you're going to blow it up, right? Then like, what's the point of like if you're just going to really blow it up, and the Lakers now will finally have control mostly of their draft after this year. If you're going to blow it up, there's like deeper questions to ask, right? Because then that becomes an Austin question, a D'Lo question, a Rui question, a Vando question. Like, which of those guys is going to be on the next Lakers championship contender team? And if the answer is they're probably too old, none of them, then you really have to blow it up.
Really blow it up.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, it's not just LeBron and AD that are going; it's everybody.
And if you don't blow it up, what do you do with Darvin Ham? Particularly if they finish strong and win a round or two. And that's not a question that we have time to answer here, but I know it's one that we might have a chance to talk about in the offseason. So, Aaron Larsoul, it is always fun to catch up. Lakers All Access on playback. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I wish we could talk longer, but Locke is a stickler for the format.
Well, then I will be quiet so we can go away.
Locked on Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out, see the show, hang out with over 23,000 subscribers. Andy's back tomorrow. Lakers in Toronto. For the love of God, do not screw that up. We'll see everyone after the game.